So we'll step over to the NASCAR side of things and talk a little bit about, what the subject of the week is, right? It's Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson. And to be honest with you, I thought it was BS what Bubba Wallace did, hooking Kyle Larson on a 1.5-mile track at the speeds they were running. Your thoughts about that?
Oh, yeah, I agree. You can't do that.
Right.
I mean, that's just not acceptable. And you just can't do it. And you have got to. I understand emotion, and this was a fascinating. And I stay out of the discussion. I don't live in that world. I don't host programs. I don't get on social media about it and everything like that. Right. And I watch this thing, and there is nobody in the NASCAR industry that is more pro Kyle Larson, and nobody in the NASCAR industry that is more pro Bubba Wallace than I am. I mean, Bubba was one of my Legends kids, one of my summer shootout kids.
Right.
And the reason that I love Bubba Wallace to death is his passion, his energy, his drive, his determination. What got Bubba in trouble is his passion going over the top, and he made a major mistake there. You can't do that. And he messed up, and he messed up big time. Now, a lot of guys mess up. I mess up. We all mess up. Wesley messed up. I mean, Bubba did it on a big stage, national television, in a spot that was very dangerous to a fellow competitor in a time period where all we have talked about the last month or so is rear-end hits of these cars. So
right.
Bubba's emotion got the best of him, and he made a big mistake, a big error, and he cannot do that anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure McDonald's can't be too happy about this as well, right? I wouldn't think.
I don't think anybody is.
I don't think anybody is. Yeah.
You can't be. And I think this is. Let's talk a little bit about the penalty phase of this thing. Okay, I've watched this week unfold, and I do a little podcast for one of my diecast clients, and I said it doesn't matter what NASCAR does. It doesn't matter what NASCAR does. A small percentage will think it's all right, and a large percentage will not. And that doesn't matter what they do. Suspended for a year, obviously there a lot of people would have lost their minds about that. A $15 fine, a lot of people would have been upset about that, and anywhere in between. We end up in between with one race. I think the one race penalty is I've seen a lot of people on social media saying he wasn't penalized because there wasn't a cash or a points thing. What is cash to Bubba Wallace or that race team?
Nothing.
Points, yes, exactly. Points, there might be a little bit of it, okay? Mm-hmm. What is Bubba Wallace feeling on Sunday afternoon this weekend? What do you think Bubba Wallace is going to be doing on Sunday afternoon? You know what he wants to do.
Right.
You know what he's supposed to be doing. You want to send a message to him. He's in timeout. And I tend to think that in whatever you want to go. I mean, and I heard you guys talking, and Austin thought maybe 2 races. That's fine. If it's 2 races, I think sitting out this weekend will likely more accomplish the goal of Bubba never doing this again than a monetary fine. Because it is going to be a terrible weekend for Bubba Wallace.
No
Watching your car go around that racetrack, watching your sport go on without you. And this sport can go on without Bubba Wallace. This sport went to Rockingham without Dale Earnhardt.
Right.
This sport can go on with Bubba Wallace, and we will have a perfectly good race at Homestead Miami Speedway. And he's going to have to watch it. I just believe that the suspension of the suspension, 1 race, 2 races, whatever you want to go. I think this suspension, I think we're looking here at making sure that this doesn't happen again. I think the suspension is the best course for Bubba and probably anybody else to double think and maybe pump the brakes when you're faced with that similar situation. Because this is going to be a lousy Sunday afternoon for Bubba Wallace. Lousy Sunday afternoon for Bubba.
No doubt.
Imagine it. Imagine. You've lived your whole life for this. You've scratched and clawed. You've been called names. You've been beaten, battered up and down the country. You find yourself in a spot a month ago. You get that second career win, and you take yourself out of the seat of that race car.
Yeah. I think the biggest loser in all of this, he's currently 8th in the points, is Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell was an innocent victim of this. And it's sad to see that, to be honest with you, because now he's 8th in points.
Agree totally. I agree totally. That is you're right, and it's the victim of this. Here's Christopher's putting a happy face on it, and I'll say this, okay? I had Christopher Bell making the Final Four. Christopher Bell is still on my list to make the Final Four, and I don't think it's because of Martinsville prowess. Christopher Bell can go to Homestead and make this all right, and here's the thing. Christopher Bell and that team are talented enough to go to Homestead and make it all right. The Toyotas on the mile-and-a-half tracks have been really, really good, and Christopher Bell on that racetrack, it's his favorite racetrack, have been really, really good. Now, I hate that he's the innocent victim of Bubba taking out Kyle Larson. I hate that for Christopher Bell. That's part of the racing, and I don't know how you ever fix that in racing, because there's innocent victims all the time in motorsports. That just is part of the game, and it's you kind of go with it, you kind of live with it, you kind of ride with it, and go with that. There's innocent victims all the time, but the reality of it is that if you're Christopher Bell, you still have some life left in you, because you're going to Homestead Miami Speedway, and he is really good at this racetrack. And the last time their back was against the wall was a place called the Roval, where he's not good, and they scored the win. Now we're going to the track, and I don't know that back against the wall. Martinsville is such a wild card that maybe his back is against the wall at Homestead, and this is a track where he is really, really good. I would not be surprised at all if Christopher Bell doesn't win on Sunday afternoon. Writing the whole chapter of these 2 weeks and putting everything kind of somewhat semblance of what it was supposed to be.